and good morning, everybody. Happy Boxing Day. I think that's a thing. So, welcome to sort of my end of 2023 project update. It's been a couple of months since our last release. I guess almost 7 months now. That was the last major sort of Foundry rollover, and a lot of big stuff has happened. Mostly, I'll be addressing the past couple of months, but a little bit of a summary for the year, because why not in a good way to end it. I took over sort of doing the project management just over 2 years ago. I don't know that that's quite when we announced it formally, but that's when I sort of did the first one of these live streams. So it seemed kind of fitting to have one today. So hello and welcome, and hopefully you're all hearing me. Hopefully you also all notice that everything will be just a little bit quieter because I now have a quiet keyboard and a quiet mouse. So the things that I'm going to plan on covering today, talking a little bit about what's happened, so some of the GM-facing developments and some of the player-facing things. So a little bit about what's important for managing the system, because there are a couple of big changes, and for the player or play side of things, a bunch of features that we've added in, and this is going to be my way to sort of advertise all the cool stuff that, hey, maybe you've missed over the past 6 months. I'll talk a little bit about other stuff. Obviously, the remaster was sort of a big one this year, and it really kicked into high gear a couple of months ago. So just addressing some of the issues there, some of the upcoming features that we have, a sort of end of the year update on Extra Life, and I'm really proud of that. I haven't put it on the sort of agenda, but cool Boxing Day things that have happened this morning. So if you're looking for stuff to buy, because I don't know, Boxing Day, then here are some discounts or cool stuff that have come up literally in the past sort of day. And then finally, a project update for moving forward. So the first question to ask is, how much have we actually done? And the answer is a lot. I don't think anybody would be surprised for me to tell you that we have done a very, very, very large amount of work on the system. So I use June 3rd as a benchmark because June 2nd was the day that we released the last thing for the previous version of Foundry. So for Foundry version 10. So everything for Foundry version 11, everything after 4.12 release, it's been almost 3,500 merges. Yesterday it was 3,460. We've already had more today because we don't stop. Stop for Christmas. Why would we do that? We've got a VTT to develop, which means that we're merging in on average about 17 things per day. I used to have a really cool chart that sort of tracked our progress. Since we split it across 2 repositories, it's a lot harder for me to track, especially because the old one just sort of counted things that we pushed into the system. The new Git backend counts an issue and a merge under sort of the same ticket. So every time someone puts an issue into the system, it increments by 1. So it's not the best metric. There are ways to sort of tease it out, but it's not as easy as before where I could just simply go through, click, 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 click. Oh, this many, and sort of make my spreadsheet. That being said, I don't know how many software projects out there do 3,400 merges in a couple of months or 17 merges per day, and that's reviewed code. And yes, there have been hiccups, especially with our last release. We apologize. We were sort of forced to push stuff out for Kingmaker before we were ready, but it's all sort of resolved. I think everything's stable. So if you're waiting to update, definitely update now. The next release cycle has some cool things in, but seeing as it's not released yet, not going to spoil it. We had 690 issues that we resolved in the past 6.5 months, I guess 7 months. 217 of those don't count because they were either closed as not planned or they're out, just because they're out of scope for the system, or someone was like, hey, this is wrong. And we're like, well, actually, here's the rule. Or like, oh, we want you to make it so that we can put balloon emojis in. That's really not a thing that has anything to do with the system. So those were closed out, which means that the remaining issues, which is like 473 issues, those were all closed out, people reporting bugs or finding errors in the system, and that means we're closing a little bit more than 2 per day. It's different than the 17 merges per day, but yeah, 2 per day is not bad. Again, for an open source project, we don't get that many reports, and when we do, we're pretty decent. We're back up to about 400 open issues, so at some point we're going to have to go through and consolidate or cull them again, but that's a job that nobody likes doing. So over this time period, we've had 11 major releases with 39 minor releases, as well as the 2 original beta releases. Hopefully nobody was playing on the beta releases. They really weren't for players to play on, but for those of you who stomached it or who install the major as soon as it's available, we do appreciate your feedback. It helps us to catch all the weird edge cases that we don't normally catch. Other than that, there's sort of one major book that went in, Rage of Elements. We did the whole system remaster, and of course we haven't missed any of the Adventure AP or Pathfinder Society content. That's been a lot easier on our end because, hey, Sigil's putting most of that information in now, which means that we don't have to. So it's sort of nice that somebody else is kind of getting paid to do all of this work. It's same quality, and for the most part, it's the same people. But yeah, it's sort of nice to see that commercial piece actually working. So the GM facing updates, there's not a whole ton that I can demonstrate. One of the sort of complaints people had is they didn't know how or what was happening with a migration. So now there's a progress bar for when we do migrations. We also have a couple other things. So compendium migrations, refreshing from the compendium. Why don't I just give those a quick little show off? So for compendium migrations, this was really, really helpful for people who ended up happening to have sort of their own compendium packs, and they wanted to get the new updated things. So you could simply go in. Probably should have brought in something that needs one, but yeah. Let's see. Why don't we pull in one of the? I think I should be able to do the Battle Zoo ones. Should have checked to see if I had a compendium that. Oh, yeah, I know Metamorphic's the new name, but it was still Sigil back in for most of it. This is a retrospective stream. So here we go. For custom compendiums, you now have sort of a migration status. It tells you where it is, what schema it's on, what version it is. And so then you can try to migrate the compendium, and there you go. So now the schema is updated, and the version of Foundry it's compatible for is updated. So that's something that you can definitely do. And then the update from compendium. So now most of these feats, which is super helpful for remaster type stuff, you can open up, you can hit refresh, and now it'll update. I don't know if there's anything in particular that needs to be updated for the remaster on the Sajin Iconic. Well, maybe I just broke it. Whatever, I'll just pull a new one. Anyways, you can now do that. Obviously, you do want to make sure that when you do refresh it, you're you know what you're doing and you're trying not to do it off the cuff. No, okay, I guess that's right. So yeah, you can update features like that. The iconics all haven't been updated because we don't have updated iconic sheets. The ones that have come out, which I think for the level 1 versions we have updated, then that we have done. The rest of them we have not because there aren't official sheets yet. Is there a button on the sheet to update everything? No, because we don't want to sort of do absolutely everything. There's lots of cases where that's not a desired end state. It'll have unintended consequences. You can write a macro that will do it. Chances are we won't provide it. Maybe at some point when we figure it's safe enough to update absolutely everything, we will. But at this point, it is not something that we have planned because it can override other particular things that maybe we don't want to. So another thing that we had is we've added the secret disposition. This is very useful if you want to have traps on the scene and for you to be able to highlight it as a GM, but for the players not to be able to see. So why don't I just grab a hazard out of the hazards? Armageddon orb. There we go. A nice easy one. So we can give it a secret disposition, and when we do that for the GM, when you hover over it, it's purple. Purple indicates that it's just sort of, it is an actor for you, and it's hidden from the players. If one of the players was to hover over, it would look like nothing. So if you wanted to make a mimic, you could literally give it a treasure chest icon, make it secret, And then when they hover over it, hey, it's just a treasure chest. Although for treasure chest, maybe you want them to try and open it. Maybe a mimic's a bad idea. But you could make this into a scene tile, place it somewhere, and it would look like nothing to the players until they got close. And then when you're done, you delete it and it's gone. And then it'll delete from their screen. So the hidden disposition is a cool feature that... the secret token disposition is a cool feature that Foundry added. So that was Foundry, that wasn't us. And sort of the last piece of GM-facing news, dual class and Ancestry Paraground variants are no longer in the system themselves. We've removed them because they aren't best supported in the system. Variant rules, Paizo sort of explained to us, are sort of like really advanced homebrew or officially sanctioned homebrew and should kind of be treated like such. Could we have them in the system? Yes, but it means that someone has to maintain them, and there just wasn't a drive or a person who was willing to do it full time, which is why it exists better in a module. There's also things that modules can do that they can handle much better than the system can, because they can hook into different things. And then if something screws up, it's really not on the system trying to balance off all of these things between a variant rule and the core. So leaving it to systems is a better idea. I don't know if automatic bonus progression will go that way. I sincerely hope so, but it's something we haven't talked about as a development team, because pulling that one out of the system and then making it literally someone else's problem, and the millions of variants that are what people really use anyways, it's just giving power to the place where it should be. So if you want variants, you should kind of have to install them. The hard exception we've made is stamina, because stamina is something that's almost impossible for a module to implement, whereas the system can do it relatively easily. So that one will stay in just because we don't know how a module would do it well. Oh, and yes, so it came up in chat. This is absolutely from Rusthenge, which may be coming out soon. Who knows? But kind of cool. Hey, everyone want to see what the Iron Harbor looks like? But expect news on the Rusthenge front very, 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 very soon. Maybe. Oh, right. That didn't work for any of you because you can't see the screen. Here we go. There we go. There's Iron Harbor. So moving on, usability changes. So we've got a bunch of cool things that I can sort of demonstrate. One that I demonstrated at the very start was multi-checks. So now you can tag a whole bunch of checks all at once. It is super useful for things like Pathfinder Society play. So you can pop up, you'll get all of the buttons, you can have different modifiers, and that way you have to code in one thing, you click one thing, it all pops up and pops into the scenario. And then increasing and decreasing item quantity by 5 or 10. Now, this is something that I don't know that everyone's really learned to appreciate, but yeah, so I can go up and down by 1 by just using plus and minus. If I hold shift and click, it goes up by 5. Control and click, it goes up by 10. So that's kind of a cool, powerful feature that I haven't heard of a lot of people using, but it's sort of there. If you mouse over, if you mouse over the plus sign, obviously, because I'm not capturing the screen and it happens on a different layer, you can't see it, but you get a reminder that tells you that this is a thing. But yeah, so shift click, go up by 5, control click, go up by 10. There's not one in this room, but I think there is one. Here's a chest. So here we have a loot actor. Loot actors can now have the broken condition, same with vehicles. So the broken condition instead of hidden. So you can't really hide a loot actor, so the hidden icon is gone, but the broken icon now exists. So for both vehicles and for loot actors, that's a thing. Go back over to our party. Oh. So on the inventory, here is our bulk, encumbered at 9. One of the things that we have is automated encumbrance. For that, you do need to go and you need to turn it on. So you can find that here in the system settings, manage automation, and so now there's encumbrance. Turn them all on. So it's not on by default because, again, it's not perfectly implemented and it's something that is an option. But there you go. So encumbrance is now automated. So here's Amiri, and using my shift click, why don't I give her, or a control click, she can now have 10 large bastard swords. So bulk of 22, she's now way over bulk and super encumbered, but you see that the encumbrance and clumsy penalties are already on, which is kind of okay for her because she's already clumsy with her weapon. So control shift click to decrease by 5, 4. So now just normal encumbered, 3, 2, and then we'll bring it down below. So we've lost our encumbered status. So here we are at bulk 9, encumbered at 9. As soon as you go past that, we go up to bulk 10 and we're over encumbered. I think I can do that with, here we go, with javelins. So here's where we're at. Talked about increasing, decreasing item quantity by 5 and 10, broken instead of hidden, and encumbrance being automated. Another one that I won't really show off is the at damage. This is a replace for a bunch of the roll toggles. It just is another syntax that we've built in that will take advantage of all the different things or features that you can attach on. So a normal roll, you can only provide traits to it. With the at damage inline roll, it can pull all of the different flags on an actor, so all of the automation will work if you structure it using at damage. Then a cool one that we have is our party actor. So the party actor, and I'll talk about self-applied effects, so I can just transition over. So party actor is our new one. I actually didn't drag it around to the party, so why don't I do that? So it looks like a folder. It's not really a folder. Oh, wow. I have all of the old ones from when I did this before. What happens when we reuse worlds? Clean that up. Oh, I already deleted Amiri. Well, that was dumb of me. Let's get Amiri back. And Kyra. We'll get Kyra back. So the party sheet can be opened with this or by clicking P. All the cool stuff you can see, so you can add or subtract hero points. You can see who speaks which languages. You can see all the different skills by hovering over. You can see what level people are trained at. All the different recall knowledge. So this is where the lores pop up and you can see who's trained for what. The exploration tab, I think we'll probably expand this more as the next year goes on. It would be nice for these to actually apply things to the whole of the party, which would be kind of cool for things like scouting. But again, this was a first attempt. You can see everyone's speeds. You can see how many the speed that you can travel via exploration. Everyone's perception modifiers. You can use the check prompt to be able to create a prompt dynamically, choose all the role options, and then you can rest everyone for the night. And then the stash. So we can find something cool, or maybe less cool. We'll do a short sword. So here it's in the party loop, and you can just drag it to one of the party actors. And then we go over to Amiri, and unless I broke stuff, there we are, the short sword exists. You can drag it back. You can't sort of go back. There's no simple way, but someone can simply take it, drag it to the character, and it'll move over to where it belongs. So that's a nice one. Then self-applied effects. So this one's kind of cool. A lot of effects now have the use button. So you click use and it'll pop up in chat. It'll pop up compressed. You can expand it as per normal, but you hit apply effect. And so you don't have to go and search. It'll just apply rage, or for Sagen, there is Tiger Stance. So you pop it up saying, yep, I'm going to Tiger Stance, and I apply it, and there we go. So other things that we've covered off this year, a couple that I'll start next. I guess I should have just done that. The action cost shown in the feat and chat cards is appropriate. So for both Rage and Tiger Stance, it now gives you the number of actions that something will cost. Same thing will happen. I popped up Sudden Charge. I'll go back in a second. So just to skip that one, the action cost happens. I'm now going to show off some of the armor renaming and pricing. So similar like weapons, the basic XP breakdown in an encounter. So we can hop back over. So for armor, here's our hide armor, level 0. But let's say I'm going to throw on some runes. I can make it +1, and you see the price goes up, item level goes up. We can make it out of silver, so low grade. Price goes up. Give it a resiliency rune. Now it's level 8, goes up to 682 gold. So you can see it sort of, it now scales the exact same way. And that was one of our, what's it called? Extra life stretch goals or reward tiers for last year. So yep, it all got done. I know it took a while, but we never said when we'd get it done. We just said it would get done. Then we can go and create a combat. We can go into the combat tracker. So the threat of this encounter is low. These are all level 5 characters fighting like level 1 and -1 characters. So low threat. And if you hover over top of it, it tells you that the budget is 50 out of 60 and the average party level is 5. And so it's 50 XP for 4 party members. If I add in an extra person, why not? This will compute based off of the party itself. So now it's a trivial, so party level is still level 5, but it's 50 XP times 4 divided by 5 party members gives you 40 XP. And so that'll give you your XP budget. Are there different ways you can choose to assign this? Absolutely. You can do whatever you want. This is just the way that we've done it. At some point, we may decide on a way to assign XP from the prompt. I don't know. It's something that we're definitely thinking about doing, but we just haven't done yet. To skip over to the next thing without going back to my checklist. In the bio tab, there's now toggles that will show very specifically what will and won't be shown on the limited sheet. So right now, by default, the appearance, height, and weight of your character are the only things that appear on the limited sheet, which makes a lot of sense because hiding that makes 0 sense. Some character is going to look at you, and what's in appearance, height, and weight, they should probably be able to guess just by inspection. Even like a natural one on perception, you can tell there's a thing there and it looks kind of like this. As for the rest of it, if you want to type in a backstory and make your backstory visible to the party, or where you were born, or what you believe, disbelieve, edicts and anathema are now expandable tables because they've become much more important. And then sort of campaign notes as you go along. All of these are configurable. You can make each of these blocks appear or not based on what the GM's preference is. Okay, hopping back over to the checklist. So this was a big one from last year. We've started to try and make rule elements a little bit easier to use, or just, you don't need to know how to code, you just click what you want, and mostly it works. And that's a great way to create effects. We started off with the flat modifier one, but we've added stuff for things like auras and token light. A bunch of them have been done. There are more that will be coming. So stay tuned. Again, mostly for GMs. This is something that is, if you want your players to be able to do, you'll have to turn on in system settings to allow them to edit rule elements. It's entirely possible and it's up to you. But by default, we turn it off because it's just easier not to have more things going on than you need. And that's maybe an in-between session things. Very rarely should you be doing stuff sort of off the cuff. And I'll show off the token-to-token visual flanking indicators. So the first one was the different forms on rule elements. So I can go in and we'll just, I don't know, edit the short sword, look at rules. Maybe it's a really cool one and it has an aura. So we can add it. Now you have this whole front end, say how big it is, the level it is for sort of counteract, any traits or predicates that you need, the effect that it's going to apply. So you can just drag and drop, like maybe it I don't know, gives a +1 to something so you can create the effect, or it gives guidance to everyone in range, whatever you want. You can just drag whatever effect works right there and it'll go. And then you can say what it will look like. You can give it a texture and that'll always appear. You can give it a border and a highlight color around. It's usually based off of what the user color is so that you know who's emanating what aura. And that's based off of whatever is selected. So right now it's Game Master, it's this color. As it's owned by me, it'll show up in that color. And you can determine how opaque you want it. You can make it fully blocking or not. So that's the aura one. And token light. So if you want to be giving off light, you can set the dim and bright radius, the angle of emission, which I would mostly leave for 360 as lights. You can make them narrow, but it'll kind of work weirdly. You'll have to rotate your token, and that's not a mechanic except for the one lantern that does the cone. Every other light's assumed to sort of be universal. You can decide on the color, you can decide on the animation, you can do all of the different advanced options for it, and you don't have to do any of the messy back-end coding stuff that would all go into here. So that was the rule elements. Token to token flanking. So this one, you just have to make sure that you set up right. So first it has to be on a gridded map. We'll put the character in between. So one's on the inside, has the red border, the outside is blue borders, so those are on a common team. This is not on the same team, so it is flankable. You have to have the creature targeted, and you have to have one of the people flanking selected, and then you can hold down Alt. And then you'll see this nice line over top that says, yes, flanking is occurring. It's there, flanking's not occurring, flanking's occurring. It's based off of the flanking rules for large creatures through two perpendicular sides, not including a corner. For medium or small creatures, it's through the center. So it's just going as per the book. You may want additional flanking. If you do, you press F for off-footed on your character, and then that can work if you've installed the module. So yeah, the visual flanking indicator is kind of cool. You just have to remember that you need to have the character you want to inspect selected, and you have to have the character that you want flanked targeted. And if you do that, then it'll just work. Oh, I should have made a kineticist. I think I deleted my kineticist. So why don't we just quickly make a kineticist? Dual gate, we'll go fire, metal. I don't know what I just picked, but in any case, I picked lots of stuff. But now we have our channel elements, and channel elements again, apply the effect. So I get my blast for fire and my blast for metal. And these are things that I can now pop out. So here I can drag strikes. And then open it up, I can change between 1 and 2 actions, and it'll change the action cost that shows up, whether it's ranged or not. And it all just kind of works. And I'll do the metal one because the metal one has more options. Again, you can drag your strikes down. You can also drag the channel elements down. Oh, right. But I can change it from range to, or piercing and slashing for my close strike. So there's piercing, And they're slashing. Oh, that was a good roll. So that was the attack pop-outs are kind of cool. What else do we have? Oh, just normal attack pop-outs. So when you roll the attack or when you roll damage, we now get pop-ups for them, or we can get pop-ups. If you hold shift on a damage roll, you can now add things in. Kind of more important for Mauricio, we'll say. So if I hold down, draw the dagger, hold down shift, roll damage, I can now toggle sneak attack on or off. So if sneak attack should apply and it didn't, holding down shift will bring up this modal. Because we're doing this modal, it will likely mean that the Theater of the Mind toggles will go away. Because again, now when you roll damage, you can simply just hold the shift key and you can bring up the damage dialog for it. And you can toggle everything on and off. Yeah, and so I think that finishes off this list of cool usability changes. So I think this is the last slide. Going through the not on the compendium feature and unusable attacks. Why don't we do those ones? Although this poor guy down here, he only has 8 hit points. And I did 20 damage, so why don't I show that off? Well, just double damage. So there you see, it took 40 damage, and now there's an additional note. The massive damage immediately kills them. So that's a fun little note. I have no idea if Kyra can cast Disintegrate, but for now she'll be able to. This is another fun one. So we can have Kyra cast Disintegrate, full damage. And you can see that their equipment still exists, but they are now a giant iconic pile of dust. I think the turning the icon into a pile of dust is something that'll be coming out in the next release. So I don't think this is in right now, but there you go. That's your sneak preview. So, I would not recommend snorting it. It's definitely a human that's been turned into dust. It's not going to be helpful. You won't gain any powers. So, Compendium Browser. So let's say we want to look for all creatures that aren't aberrations. So we can now use the not key, and it'll eliminate everything that's not an aberration. So that's a fun one. So it's a little exclude me, draws the line through to let you know. And we don't want humanoids, and we don't want constructs. So we're sort of narrowing down what types of things exist in the system. So that's a cool feature that we added in, the not feature, or the, yeah. And last one that I'll demonstrate before I head back. So you see here that fist strikes are done with fists. So if your hands are full, you cannot do it. So I draw the bottled lightning. It lets you know that the fist strike still exists, but because the hands are occupied, you can't use it. So if you do want to use it, you just need to drop or sheath it, and the strike comes back. So a couple of other things that were added in. Burst templates now snap to grid. So they'll now go to the places where they belong so that you can't place them down incorrectly. We might do this with other ones. I don't think we have yet, though. Army actors, I won't demonstrate it. I did it a little bit on the Kingmaker stream, but if you want to play around with it, you just have to turn the Kingmaker flag on for the system, which is a console command. Otherwise, we'll probably release it into the wild so you can use it in any campaign shortly. Right now, there is an extra step just because not everything's been tested to the degree that we would like, but it was kind of needed for Kingmaker, so it's all in. and it's usable, and there will be like kingmaker armies in the kingmaker compendiums. So these all exist, and they're that type of actor, but right now we just don't have it turned on by default. And then new gang up automation. Hey, buddy. Console. So if you hit F12, you get the console. So we'll head back. Right. So there are armies in here. You can sort of check them out. As for the console command, you hit F12 and you get the box, whether you're in Foundry as a desktop app or in the web browser. Oh no, I should have picked one that's a burst. Spout is a burst. So now when you try and place the 5-foot burst, it'll go to where it should go. I don't think I can put it somewhere illegal. Yeah, so it'll snap to where it can go. Even if I try and place it in the wrong spot, it'll snap to the nearest localized point. Army actors, I sort of showed that they exist. I think I'd need to give Remastered Gang-up. Now when Amiri goes to attack, she does benefit from gang up. So that's a cool piece of automation for anybody. You will have to refresh the gang up feat if you happen to have it. That way it'll pull the latest version, although I think it might just work natively, actually. If you want the command to activate armies or to change it to a Kingmaker campaign, you can search for it in Discord. Yeah, so those are all the major achievements so far that we've had. Although I guess that should say in V11. That's what I get for making a typo. So core books that we added, Rage of Elements was a really, really big one. I think that we got Kineticist automated very quickly. We had all the data in day one, and our next release had pretty much all of the automation, and I demonstrated some of it with the metal and the fire kinetic blast with channel elements. So if it's not working for you, chances are you just haven't channeled elements, and that is a requirement to use that. So just go through the checklist, understand your character, and do it. Then we have, of course, we had the remaster release, the player core, the GM core. For anybody who hasn't found it yet, we do have a remaster changes button. Almost everything that we have is in here. So the remaster changes button is here. It's accessible to players and to GMs. It'll pop in all of the different changes and the approaches that we've taken. So if you want to know what languages have changed, a list of all the class features that have changed to something else, all the feats that have been changed or removed or renamed, all the spells, same sort of idea. This is the biggest one. I can't find tongues. So that's because it's true speech now. So if you can't find it, remaster changes is where you want to go. And then all of the equipment that's sort of been changed. Obviously, more is coming. We've only put in the stuff that either we've been given or that Paizo has sort of publicly leaked. If it has, we've kind of put it into the system, even if some of it belongs in Player Core 2. And then the other books that we've gotten in, we did the normal data entry. So Sky King's Tomb, Season of Ghosts, and Resthenge, they're all in the system. So I think those are big ones. Does Gang Up not apply the visual flanking indicator? I don't think it does, because there's no line to draw. Yeah, so Gang Up won't apply the visual flanking indicator because it's not a normal type of flanking. It's sort of special in that you're not actually flanking, you're just off guard. I guess technically it is flanking, but you're really just giving them the off guard condition. Oops, I didn't need to do that. So what are some of the goals that we've got set for 2024? So the first couple are ones that, thanks to your extra life generosity, we will be working on over the next year. Custom domains, precious materials, and runes. System, animal companions, and eidolons, so there'll be a little bit better support, and then the module will go away, and Takeo will be slightly happy that he has one less module to maintain. And relative detection states per actor. So you can now have someone, a character that's hidden to some people but observed by others, or unnoticed, and then the point out action will then become much more useful, and people will actually start playing with it, similar to a lot of other things that have happened when people started playing at Foundry. Afflictions. So this is one that we've promised for a while. It's now getting closer because Soup was the one who was driving all of the kingmaker changes, and that's what his attention was focused on. So work on that will be picking up in the new year. That's one will be a nice one to have, especially because I'm planning on running Rusthenge, so I kind of want it personally. Lore skills, we're finally starting to do some things with. They'll totally be sort of, I want to say gone on NPCs, but they'll be handled differently, and eventually we'll treat them more like we treat other skills on actors as well. This is something that it seems easy, but it's actually quite difficult to accomplish. So don't expect this super quick, but it will give us the ability to grant lores kind of like abilities and automate some things with lores that we just can't do right now. And in addition, along with that, we'll try and do some character building UI improvements. There's ideas of how we want it to go ahead. I don't know if anybody noticed because I've been going through it quickly, but you can see on the skill page, it's starting to look a little bit different. So there's some changes that are in the works. This will be coming out in the next release. So just trying to make it a little bit more visually appealing and work a little bit better. There are some radical stuff that might be going away. I don't know, we're playing around with some ideas to just try and make the interface look a little bit cleaner. Another one that maybe you would have seen as I was clicking through stuff, the sub features. So this is just something that will help to replace some of the rule elements. So there's lots of things that we use rule elements for, but don't need something that does that much heavy lifting. So we're going to be adding in sub features. This is coming out in the next release. So I don't know if that's really a goal for 2024 unless we release on January 1st, but it is something that's coming up, and it'll sort of help with, again, things that we aren't, that we're using rule elements for that might be easier to do another way. We've been updating the action macros pretty consistently to try and make them work with the remaster. They're not all there yet, but the built-in ones will be getting adapted as we have time to go through, because there were significant changes. Part of this will probably get rid of the basic action macros module itself, because hopefully we're going to build it all in as a system feature, which would be kind of cool. And then the last one that I'm trying to push for and drive, especially now that we've got the Pathfinder Society modules, is more Pathfinder Society enhancements. So it'll be a little bit easier to do that stuff in the system itself. So those are things that we've got coming up. The Extra Life campaign. This was a big one this year. So 2 years ago, we did it in response to certain comments on the internet. And the best way to deal with people who are misrepresenting or trolling your work is obviously to get the community to donate to charity and show them how wrong they were. And that year we raised $3,500, which is not bad for just sort of an off-the-cuff thing. Last year, that got blown out of the water, in part thanks to Molten Hosting, who just came in, dropped $1,000 in the middle of the stream and left. That was really cool. And we broke $10,000 last year, which was impressive. We were kind of hoping that maybe we could get a 50% bump on that this year and get to 15,000. You guys smashed through that, so thank you so much on behalf of the Children's Miracle Network and I guess the Dell Children's Hospital in Texas and the McMaster Children's Hospital in Hamilton up in Canada. We raised a ton of money, over $18,000, absolutely incredible. Way more than we thought that we would. Like we put $15,000 sort of as a, yeah, that might happen. If you would like to donate, or you know people who are looking to get in their last minute taxable donation receipt things before the end of the year, feel free to donate to our team. The link's there. It's extralife.org/team/63664, we're happy to take more donations. For anybody who's waiting for T-Glow coasters, I got my 40-watt laser a week and a half ago, so I've been playing around with that. I'm going to be sending out my thank yous, reminders to send me address information, and over the next couple of weeks, I'll start making those guys. So if you're looking for a coaster, I'll probably start mailing them out in the new year to sort of end off the 2023 campaign. Obviously, in 2024, we'll be starting up our next campaign. The structure will be a little bit different. Shark felt guilty in that he felt he was attracting a lot of the donations just because he was offering system features, and he ran into the case where a couple of Canadians donated to him, so they lost out on a tax receipt, and he didn't feel quite good about that. So next year, as much as we'll put the goals for each person under their individual people, because the system won't let us have team goals. Like if you donate to any member of the team, the team goal is this. We will have those. We'll have to track it manually, but it won't be per person goal. It'll just be at this point donated to the whole team. This is how much happens. So we'll avoid that problem with, so that everyone can get the benefit of donating, other than the feel goods for helping out Children's Hospital. So I think I've got my t-shirt from this year on. There we go. Extra life. Yeah, so really happy that we could once again sort of support that. So thank you all. It's been absolutely amazing. It's been incredible. It's made a lot of this really worth doing. So moving on, Boxing Day stuff. So there's a bunch of cool things that have been released, or there's things that are going on. If you got Foundry for Christmas and are looking at hosting solutions, Forge has a 10% off new subscriptions. So if you're a new subscriber to Forge, want to use that to make your life easy, you just plug in your license key and it just works. So when you check out your subscription using the Boxing23 code until December 31st, you can do that at the Forge and get 10% off. So why not? Our friends over at Team Plus, if you don't know what they are, they're sort of a group that makes add-ons to enhance different classes or books or everything. They just sort of pick a book at random or pick a class. Well, not quite at random. It's what people want, and they do sort of additional feats that sort of fit with the lore, that are relatively balanced, just to give you more cool options. And they're starting to move their stuff forward for the remaster as well. I think the Witches Plus for Remaster has kind of come out that integrates new rules that they know are coming. And if you own Witches Plus, you, I think, get Witches Plus Remastered for free. They've got a sale on that's essentially 41% off if you want all of those different books. So Archetypes Plus, Barbarians, Clerics, Firebrands, Impossible Lands, Inventors, Magus, Oracles, and Witches Plus. Yeah, it's not a bad deal. So $50 gets you about $90 worth of stuff. A cool one that came out yesterday, they already sold out their 5 premium ones. They announced this morning on the Paizo blog, there's a new Kickstarter. So if you play Pathfinder Society, you can get a cool Wayfinder compass. They look awesome. And yeah, little jewels. They will have benefits for organized play. You can use it in the other items category. It looks like they've got some cards that look very similar to the card game that'll go along with them, sort of help explain what the Wayfinder does and what the different Aeon Stones do. I don't know if there'll be more benefits. It seemed like their extra stretch goals were teasing things, but that's a cool one. And then last but not least, I don't have a link to it, but a couple of days ago, Michael Gelfi Studios sort of announced the next version of their integrated platform. I don't even really know what to call it, but it's kind of like a Sirenscape, but lots and lots of artists can use. It gives you a soundboard within Foundry now. The thing's called Opus. It's part of the Described integration. And it's something that not only you, but your players can control. So if they want to make a certain spell sound and it's in the system, they can click on it. It'll play it for everyone. It's kind of a neat feature. I'm hoping to play around with it in the new year myself. That would be sort of fun. Yeah, so those are the big Boxing Day things that I know of. If there is somebody who's a friend of the system who is doing a Boxing Day thing, I'm happy to hype it, but this is just what I found randomly this morning. And sort of the last big kind of announcement. So the project structure going forward. I've been the project manager for just over 2 years now. And what I'll say is it hasn't made for an easy 2 years. There have been difficulties with some of the partners, and it's been an abnormal amount of stress and one that a volunteer shouldn't have to deal with. And I've sort of gotten to the point that there's a lot that I really just neither want to nor need to deal with. So I'll be stepping back a little bit as project manager. We don't have someone right now who's going to be a replacement. We've kind of decided instead that we'll kind of lead by fiat. We've been pretty good at doing group decisions the whole way. The very specific things that the project manager was doing was communicating with external organizations, and that's something that we're going to now divide amongst the team. So between Foundry and Sigil and Paizo and the volunteer development team, we're now going to be having kind of bi-weekly or monthly meetings, and 2 members of the team will sort of go kind of at random and attend these meetings and report back to everyone else, rather than the project manager sort of being the sole person trying to do all the communications and all the community wrangling. Again, just because that way there's not a single person that gets, for lack of a better way to put it, targeted. We think that this will definitely help going forward because communication's been a problem. And it's not just that we're changing, it's that a lot of other things have happened, and sort of all these issues coming to a head, and me saying, I'm going to step back because I sort of let Paizo and Metamorphic / Sigil and Foundry know about 2 months ago, as well as the team, obviously, that I need to be taking a reduced role. So this is what we came up with. Why I gave 2 months is so that we could come up with something and do sort of a nice, easy handover. The other things the project manager has historically done, if there was a disagreement on how something should be implemented and people couldn't come to a consensus, that's where I would effectively step in and say, this is the way we're going to implement it in the system, and we're done. With the better communication that we have with Paizo, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second, that's even become less a need. Not that we had a whole lot of conflict. We usually have been able to work it out. In 2 years, I think I've made 2 or 3 formal, what I'll call decisions. Although I will definitely say, if we came up with a decision and you didn't like it, I was definitely in on the discussion, and I had influence, and I will definitely wear that. I've gone into the community a lot and said, well, if you don't like it, tough. This is how we wanted to decide it. If you want to do it differently, come join the team. Then you can have a voice, and then you can have a vote on how we do it. Otherwise, modules, they're great. And people have done modules because they don't like how we implement the system, because we are very hard and fast rules as written. So that's definitely a thing. So yeah, taking care of disagreements, dealing with external people, those have been big parts of what I've been doing. The other piece has sort of been this kind of, I don't know, calling it community outreach or keeping people informed. I will say I'm going to go dark for the next 2 months. The team has asked if I want to stick around and still do some things. If they need someone to make sort of a decision of last resort, they know that I'm happy to step in and take that mantle, or if they want to find a new way, we'll just have to write a new project charter, and I'm happy to go forward as well. Like I said, it hasn't been a big issue. What we've been looking at is mostly trying to make sure that there isn't a consolidation of too much power in one person. Because again, the whole point of having a project manager was day-to-day stuff I didn't get involved with, because I was the person who made the decision of last resort. And if everyone else was happy, why have a project manager involved? Now, if you have someone who's doing a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and you have somebody who's doing a lot of the overall decision making, it becomes a bit of a problem, and there's sort of no one to go to. It's worked out really, really well. So, I'm still happy to be the tie-breaking vote if needed. But like I said, 3 times in 2 years kind of thing, it's not that big of an issue. As for the streams, I don't know. I definitely will be committing to not doing any until March. I'll still be doing charity stuff. It's important to me. I'll probably still run the charity drive. I will say I was planning on doing a live stream game with Paizo. I've sort of taken that off the table at this point, just because, again, it's more than I need to do, and it turns out with a lot of the changes at Paizo, it's become less necessary. I should highlight one of the big changes at Paizo. Andrew White, who's kind of been our champion at Paizo, who I'll say was the front-end web developer and had literally nothing to do with VTTs other than really believed in the project and wanted Paizo to succeed, has been, I don't know if to say promoted, but reappointed to the position. he is now the lead for virtual and digital products. So that's kind of cool. Huge congratulations to him. Very thankful for all of his support. I've had one meeting with the vice president of what is that? I'm gonna get it all wrong, but it's like operations and logistics. So one of the vice presidents at Paizo, Mike Webb, I've sat down with for a couple of hours. We've got one more meeting scheduled in the new year to sort of wrap up the discussion of what sort of happened over the past year and what the potential paths forward are. And after that, it'll push off to sort of the large group of Paizo and Metamorphic and Foundry and the volunteer developers to sort of work to a common goal on their own. So that's all happened, and again, my express thanks to Andrew White. He's been absolutely amazing. Sort of looking back over the past couple of years, to both Shark and Soup as the code leads, it's kind of been incredible watching the two of you work together and literally snow each other under in merges and still come out the other end. It's amazing that the quality of the project, just the amount of dedication. If you look at the number of merges that the two of them have done, I think they finally eclipsed me from my old merge count. And I used to have so many things put into the system just because of doing all of the data entry. I think I'm falling behind, which means I need to start committing to the system. I did 4 or 5 merges yesterday myself, which is probably more than I've done in the past 3 months, at least. And that's it for me. Like, I want to get more involved with doing the project as opposed to running the project. But Shark and Soup, I don't know where the project would be without you, without your efforts, especially Shark, because he has not done any paid work because he really can't. Just the sheer amount of time and dedication he puts in is incredible. Then we look over at the data entry leads who took essentially my job that I was kind of doing, or Shandian and I were doing for quite a long time. When I took over as project manager, we needed people to step into the role doing data entry. And so we got the 2 Ians. So Takale has been doing this throughout his entire sort of PhD, which is amazing. Having done one, it's an insane thing to add on top, but I also get it because when I was doing my PhD, I needed to do something that wasn't science. So I learned ballroom Latin and West Coast swing dancing and started competing competitively, very poorly, but competing competitively. Hilariously, did it at the hotel that they used to host PaizoCon at. So that's kind of a neat thing. He is going to be defending in a couple of months, so his contributions are going to drop down a little bit, which means that Player Core 2 is going to need extra help, and hey, maybe I'll have some free time and be able to step in. But both of the Ians have done amazing, both for the system and outside of the system. They've done all of the Battle Zoo stuff, and I think both of them have done some stuff with Sigil Metamorphic, keeping that all on track. It's paid work, which is awesome for them, and I'm very happy to see them getting recognized. Same with Soup and all the work that was done in Kingmaker. They were paid contracts, so it's great to see that the people who've put in this much dedication to the system are able to get a little bit out of it. I mean, it's not massive. It's not going to replace an income, but it's one of the things that we sort of asked at the very start when we wrote the project charter. You don't have to hire people from the dev team, but at least give people who are contributing to the system the option, partly because they know best what's going in, partly because they have a line in. It's a good way for the commercial side, and you're getting the best people that we've got. And I think both of them have had so much work that they've kind of been overloaded and don't have the ability to take on more. A couple other people on the core team. So Fry Guy, who PDF to Foundry, as well as both playing in and running a game with me. It was awesome throughout the whole pandemic. PDF to Foundry, there's a little bit of work going back into that, and Kevin will be coming back. He'll be doing some of the UI work and the lore work. So there's stuff that he's adding into the system. Drentel, our local bot, who is now one of the VTT project managers at Metamorphic. I'm sure I got that entirely wrong, but he's been doing that for about a year as full-time paid, as well as sort of making sure all the modules don't hiccup too badly. And then Cora, who has been our community/Discord manager, as well as doing all the amazing work on Kingmaker. I'm appreciative of the entire Foundry staff. They've always had time to chat, especially Tropos. But of all the people who work, Anathema, he has been just absolutely amazing. So, token of appreciation, playing with the laser burner, made up this cool thing. I don't know, I'll put it in front of my face. So it's just playing around last week, made that up. I don't know. Maybe I'll make some of those for next year's Extra Life. We'll see. That would be a little bit more of an expensive reward. And at that point, I'm not paying for shipping anymore. You can pay for shipping. Outside of sort of that part of the community, a couple of other people who've done amazing or just been good friends, both for me and for the system. Ray Reddix, he's sort of been our default venture agent for Foundry related issues. He was the venture lieutenant for the online portion of the Pathfinder adventure card game, and sort of transitioned to doing other things. He and Dana, they both put together something really, really cool on the Cadence Keg Discord. It's Abadar's Cooperative Coffers. It is a Foundry instance that you can reserve with the Pathfinder Society Season 5 pack. And you can sort of reserve it for a week. You can run a couple Pathfinder Society games. You don't need a license. You don't need the pack of stuff. You just sort of book one of his Docker instances, and I think there's 4 of them. A couple reserved for Pathfinder Society, a couple for Starfinder. Very, very, very cool way to help engage people and get them into the system. So if you want to try Pathfinder Society and you want to do it at 0 cost, you want to check out the Pathfinder Society premium packs, hop on over to Cadence Keg, the Cadence Keg Discord, and yeah, try it out. Check out the instance for a couple of days or for a week. Run a game. Get involved with Pathfinder Society because it's kind of cool. I obviously like it. I'm a 5-glyph GM. I've got a campaign coin. It's all very cool. Last week I got to play in the metamorphic test game of 5-08. And let me say, for a repeatable, they have just made the repeatable the easiest thing in the world to run. You want your random scenes, like pick 2 of 4, pick 3 of 6. It'll just do it all, set it up for the right challenge rating. Absolutely incredible work. I think a lot of that was Drental. So Dana will be working with me, whether she likes it or not, on on the PFS stuff. And so my thanks to her. I've been, I guess I should say them. I've been doing my best to bribe them. Every game that we play, if they add a cool feature to Foundry, I begin giving them an extra hero point. Maybe that's not what's supposed to happen in society, but society's one of the parts of the motto is to cooperate. And by adding stuff to the system, I think she's cooperating with the program in a whole, as a whole. And as GM, you kind of get a little bit of latitude. Next big one, Ink over at the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Discord and the subreddit has been really great at letting us sort of promote all the cool stuff that's happening in the system. Very, very thankful for everybody on that end of things, because it's not just about us, it's about the whole community and getting people exposed and trying to make things easier. Big thanks to the donors for Extra Life, for the Extra Life stuff that we've been doing. It's kept a lot of us going to be able to raise that kind of money. It's really inspirational, especially for me being in Canada. $18,000 turns into 20 something. That's the generosity of this community, being able to show the best of our community. It's something that's really valuable. Not to compare, but I think Roll20 had its own team for all of Roll20, and we fundraised something like 6 times as much, just our little piece. So thank you everyone for the generosity and making us be able to help. Big one is GM the Gnome. They want as little credit as possible, but this year alone, they dropped several $1,000s on the Extra Life campaign. They run through the start playing games, and they've been really good at the end of each of their campaigns. Rather than having them get paid, they've asked everyone instead to donate to our Extra Life. And that's amazing. Like, this is literally what they're sort of doing as their thing, and they're willing to donate that much. So for all the other professional GMs who are using Foundry, I don't know, I challenge you to do the same thing for next year. Your very last session of an adventure or adventure path, rather than taking the money, get it to donate to Extra Life. Okay, that's my pitch. I don't really care if you do, because it is your livelihood, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but there's an awesome idea. And yeah, so I think that's all that I've got. It's been sort of awesome working on the project. I'm not going away, but I'm definitely going to be reducing the things that I do. That's kind of why I wanted to do this now instead of moving on to the next version of Foundry. It's likely that I'll come back and start doing them again in March, but at this point, I don't know. It's going to take some time, and I'm actually going to take a vacation. My spouse and I haven't done that pretty much ever. So we're gonna go to Costa Rica for a couple of weeks. So that'll be kind of fun. At this point, I'm happy to move sort of into a questions sort of area. I'm gonna scroll back and take a look and see if there's anything that I've missed. So does it mean no more streams? It means at least no more streams for now, Guitar Guy Nick. Like I said, unless something really, really big happens, yeah. I can't be president. I'm not an American, so that's not legal under your constitution. Sorry. I guess in a sense the doctor is regenerating, or you're at least getting a new doctor into Kale. Yeah, funny thing that maybe most people don't know. So the president of Sigil / Metamorphic, Amy, has a doctorate, I have a doctorate, and Atropos has a doctorate. So when we were meeting, it was a lot of doctors in one room. I suppose Atropos is the one who was doing something at least close to his. Both Amy and I were a little bit further away from what our core thing was. PF2e project, is it the biggest system on Foundry? It depends what metric you want to use by code lines. Yes, it definitely is. I think there's still lots more people who use 5e because it's 5e. Hope the streams will come back in March. Like I said, it all depends. I don't mind doing them, maybe not as regularly. I'll definitely be back to do charity streams because, again, fundraising, kind of important. I've been privileged to be able to be the de facto leader of this team. The team hasn't needed a whole lot of leadership or guidance. We tried to do things more formally, and it turned out it was a lot of extra work for really no impact. So we just kind of did. And I think the way that we've been running things has worked really, really well. I don't think there's a lot of issues or a lot of problems. And in doing 17 merges a day and still having quality code at the end of the day, that's kind of crazy. What sort of skills are needed for the data entry stuff? Mostly just making stuff in Foundry, being able to do rule elements, and understanding how Get works so you can push material. Oh, okay. Now I have to. Jester just noted that it was my repeated streams and telling people to open their wallet that made them donate. Never been to Costa Rica. Looking forward to it. We're just doing a sort of tour package kind of thing because both myself and my spouse are tired and we don't want to have to plan everything out. Normally, we're the kind of people when we go, we choose the things we want to do. Rusthenge is done by Metamorphic, so coming out very, very shortly. To answer Fry Guy, Mac. Yeah, I don't know that you'd want me as Prime Minister. That's definitely not my my cup of tea. My cup of tea right now is chocolate mint. Module merges into the system. They sort of happen when they happen. I kind of alluded to a couple that may be going away. we've gotten most of the ones for this iteration of Foundry that we wanted in. I think that you'll probably see when V12 comes out, if all of the enhancements to terrain happen the way that we kind of expect them to. It's not like the next version of Foundry is not that far into development that we know things for certain, but the intent on Foundry's side is to add in things to make sort of terrain something that can be done at a system level, at which point those modules would kind of get eaten. Yeah, other than that, nothing planned. Some of it just kind of happens. What lodge would you run if you were a venture captain in the world of Pathfinder? Ooh, I don't know. That's a good one. I mean, Woods Edge Lodge is cool because it's the home of the Maze of the Open Road, and I feel like that's something that would kind of attract me. Otherwise, a Numerian Lodge would be kind of neat. And part of me really, really would like to do one that's sort of one of the ones from the sort of area around the seas, anywhere along the coast. Because I feel like there's not a lot of Pathfinder Society that's explored there, other than we had the Quest 4, which is one of the best quests, the Port Peril Pub Crawl. And I think there's a lot of fun that you could have being the venture captain of one of those lodges, especially if you had a backstory where you were something like one of Khalisro's first mates back in the day. No way Paizo will hire a project manager, someone who works on the project. I would say that this is exactly opposite of what we wanted. In fact, we wrote in very explicitly into the project charter that the one position that couldn't take money for hire was the project manager, unless the entire rest of the project team said, yes, we're okay with this in this specific case. The reason being that we wanted this project to remain entirely independent. And the reason that the project manager couldn't take the money is because they'd have the ability and the authority to step back and say, hold it, you're adding something to the system that doesn't really belong in the system, doesn't meet with the system's guidelines for a commercial partner. That's not to say that we won't work with a commercial partner. That's not to say that we won't expose things, but it's sort of what is the core mandate of the project? And as soon as you start paying someone for that, you now have influence outside of the project team. And that's what we were really trying to avoid. Will the data entry world still be available while Takale focuses on their thesis defense? Yep. I think that we haven't done a whole lot because we took it down for the remaster. Oh, Takale, answer that. Scroll down. Yeah, so that's all I think I have for everybody today. Turns out, I think this was a little bit longer of a stream I was intending. Yeah, very much longer. Thought I'd knock this out in a half hour. Well, that was a lie. Yeah, so thank you all for everything. Hopefully 2023 has been a good year of finding for you. Lots coming out in 2024. I'm sure that at some point in the new year we'll have some talks about Starfinder 2nd Edition. I know that that's something that Paizo really wants to talk with us about. I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I'm excited to try and play it. Takale and I have been pretty good about getting stuff that works with this added on as a module. So if you don't have it for Starfinder 2nd Edition and want to try it out, there is a module for it. Starfinder Field Test. Whether we build Starfinder into the Pathfinder system, whether we fork the system, whether we do something else, nobody knows. That's a decision that hasn't been made. It's something, like I said, Paizo does want to discuss, and we just haven't gotten to that point yet. If Starfinder 2nd Edition becomes a thing, chances are maybe I'll take that on as a little project on the side, because again, it'll be heavy on data entry, and my undergrad was space engineering, and I've got 2 grad degrees in physics, so Starfinder stuff, I'm kind of that kind of nerd. It would be fun. And I assure you that when Starfinder Society for 2nd Edition comes out, I will definitely be running lots of those games, I'm sure. Which future PF2e product are you most excited about? One that you can talk about. Ooh. See, you've gotten 2 things there. I'll say Starfinder 2nd Edition. It's not really Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but I am excited about it. Other than that, I will say that the members of the project management team are under NDAs, so there's not a whole lot I can talk about. I guess one that I can talk about is the adventure path after Sandpoint that has been announced, and Andrew White, our champion / the VTT lead, is writing the first book of that adventure path. So I am excited for that. I kind of want to run it, but I'm not going to have a whole bunch of time. I'm planning for one of my coworkers and then several members of Paizo staff running a not streamed game of Rust Henge, maybe leading into the Seven Dooms of Sandpoint, just because it's fun. But after that, yeah, I want to say it's Wardens of Wildwood. That one looks kind of cool. Do you think that the workload will be lower after the remaster's finalized? The workload never really goes down. We just go and do new cool things. Affliction's getting into the rule sets. I mentioned it earlier. It's something that's going to be happening. Soup is the one who's driving that one. He's been focused almost entirely on Kingmaker because he was hired by Foundry to make it a priority. Now that it's out, he's still sort of polishing it off, but that will be hopefully coming in the new year. Are there underexplored niches you'd want contributors modders to explore more outside of the planned roadmap? I don't know. I don't run a whole lot of modules. Right now, if you looked at my module list, I've got a ton installed, but a lot of those are just on my local machine, either for testing or to show off cool things for people who've done. Like I've got all the Battlezoo modules installed because I think it's cool to show off all the Battlezoo stuff. Other than that, no, like a lot of the stuff that's planned is the stuff that I kind of want anyways. Not that I've had any influence. I'll say that I haven't said, oh, we should do this, but when people say what's cool, I get a voice like everyone else. And being project manager, maybe people listen a little bit more. The only thing that I would like more of is Pathfinder Society stuff because I run a lot of it. But that is going to sort of, some of it will be built into the system. The rest really don't belong there. I like the GM screen module. I think that building more of that sort of stuff into the system to make it easier would be better. But outside of that, I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard question. So with that, unless there's any further questions, I will leave you all to your Boxing Day shopping. Thanks again for everyone for their generosity, for the development team, the staff at Foundry, the staff at Paizo who've been interacting with us so nicely. My thanks to all of you. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll see you in a couple months. You'll still see me around on Discord, but I'm definitely going to stop starting my day by checking the Discord, reading through all the messages, checking Reddit, reading through all of those messages. That stuff is stuff that's just going to come off my plate. Feel free to ping me or message me or tag me on Reddit if there's something that absolutely needs my attention. I'm still happy to try and help. I'm still happy to try and answer. But other than that, I hope everybody had a happy holidays and all the best to everybody in the new year.